Cats pay rent with cuddles. They do. I can't imagine having to quarantine without, you know, any living thing. You know, a roommate or pets, dogs, cats. I mean, if I didn't have cats and I was gonna have to quarantine, I would have gone out and bought like hermit crabs or something. You know, it's like my apartment didn't allow cats. It is, oh man, very helpful. All right, finally in the TvT. It is the last best of 3 we're going to be casting on this channel. The other qualifying match of the lower bracket is happening over on Wardy's channel. And if you guys would like to watch HeRoMaRiNE's first-person view of this match, he is also streaming with no delay. Players can stream with no delay. Casters all have to have delay. But this is the last best of 3 for us here on this channel. And hopefully it's a good TvT. The winner of this will qualify for TSL6 alongside the Koreans earlier today, as well as Showtime and Lambo from the upper bracket. Who's it going to be? Germany? Netherlands. Germany? Netherlands. We're going to find out. In the bottom left, from the team Mouse Esports, he is the red Terran, HeRoMaRiNE. In the top right, as the green Terran for Team Liquid, he is uThermal. Alright, so TvT. TvT is kind of a funny thing in Europe where no one really seems to be TvT snipers. I think everyone has a baseline good TvT, but it's only really talked about when in context of how good their other matchups are, right? So I don't think HeRoMaRiNE has bad TvT whatsoever. In fact, I think he has one of the best TvTs of the European Terrans. But when you talk about his results and the other matchups, TvP, TVs, even you might be like, oh, his TvT is worse. Personally, I actually think that he's faltered to more Zerg players, surprisingly, than he has to Terran players in a surprising way. I mean, he's fallen to Clem occasionally, but that just makes sense. Clem's on the rise, and he was trying to... He was like kind of dragging his TvT behind him for a while, but now Clem's TvT is also very good. But otherwise, I actually give a lot of credit to HeRoMaRiNE's playstyle and the way he thinks about the game. I think that works really well with TvT. In the macro sense, uThermal, not that he isn't good at TvT, but he is, as we know, a weirder player, more aggressive player, and already we see something happening here. Going all the way up to the starport on one base, a little uncommon, but even more uncommon than that, is going for the double Reaper opener off the reactor. So, very different build from uThermal. So he's fantastic for TvT in the sense that he will have multiple builds, which is great for any matchup, really. But as when it comes to a straight-up macro game, 15-minute Marine tank, I would say I think HeRoMaRiNE would be better, but I'm not promised to that. I'm not gonna defend that with my life. If you disagree, that's fair. uThermal, not really looking towards that 15-minute game. He's looking more towards maybe like a 5-minute game. Lots of Hellions, lots of Reapers, a single Liberator to mix things up. HeRoMaRiNE has been playing a little greedy on these maps with natural ramps. You know, going like, oh, I can defend the usual Reaper Hellion shenanigans, it's fine. Because a ramp gives you the high ground. No bunker could be a bummer. Not because... I think just the bunker would be helpful because 4 units go in the bunker, everything else go into the main. But right now, if there is a problem with the Liberator, there's a real problem with the Liberator because he's probably going to need everything else on the low grounds. Everything he can possibly get. Good micro there. No, but then good counter micro. Wait. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, hold on. Okay. So, uThermal probably predicted the Widow Mine was going to come off, right? But what I couldn't tell, and maybe you guys caught it, I couldn't tell if HeRoMaRiNE retargeted his Widow Mine or if the Hellion died too fast. I think he might have retargeted his Widow Mine. which is why I first exclaimed counter micro. But maybe the Hellion died too fast. I'd have to actually take another look at that one. That was not the fight that uThermal was hoping for. That was exactly what HeRoMaRinE was hoping for, and that he defends the natural base. And while the main base did take a while to clean up there, he just pulled the SCVs away, regardless. Would a bunker have helped? Yeah, absolutely. But apparently he really does not need one. Apparently not. Medevac of his own, of HeRoMaRiNE's own, picks up the units, goes across the map, but uThermal does move on to a tank and some Ravens. He's going to try and play out the rest of this game, but it's a very awkward game to play out. HeRoMaRiNE is now up 9 workers from that. Wow, Stampede with 10 more gifted subs. Thank you very much, dude. Appreciate the sub love. If you guys got a sub, make sure to spam those emotes. Plus another one. Another one. It's a real little petite. Alright, so uThermal's gonna have to get some damage done, man. Being down 9 workers, 10 workers is just not... It's not good. But there are plenty of opportunities, you would say, in TvT to try and get some damage done. He's repaired up his Liberator, which barely survived the initial attack. He's gonna try and once again at least deny some mining. And then maybe you can do a drop at the right time. Maybe his Raven usage is a little bit better. There's chances, but then there's HeRoMaRinE, who really doesn't make very many big mistakes. Sometimes he makes a couple little mistakes. He does get outgunned, out-macroed by, you know, the better players than him. Yes, that does happen. But generally, he is one of the best players when it comes to keeping a lead and getting a lead. I mean, he's just one of the best players, right? But yeah, you get my point. He's a very solid player. You're not really thinking, oh, he'll get a lead because he does something insane, and then I'll do something insane in response, and eventually we'll even up. It's not the type of games you play against HeRoMaRinE. uThermal is actually eager to push out. The army supplies are similar. That will change. That will absolutely change with the economic advantage HeRoMaRinE has. But for right now, uThermal still has a shot. Let's see how it goes. Oh, well, that's already a beautiful start for HeRoMaRinE, who anticipates the engagement, scouts it out, puts his tanks in the right place, and gets a beautiful initial shot. uThermal still holding okay at the army supply. I mean, he's working still with Defender's advantage. Or he's working against it, I should say. Looks like HeRoMaRiNE's also managed to get a drop across the map while still defending very well. Without the medevac, without the 8 extra Marines. uThermal doesn't want to give up yet. He's still got an army that can do something, but it's being continually pushed off. He's taking damage, and his attack isn't finding any success. Like, it just is. It's one of those games where I could easily see uThermal just eventually sigh and tap out without anything happening. He just knows the game is far too gone. Comes back, try and deal with the medevac once and for all. He's gonna deal with it thanks to an auto turret and the Vikings. HeRoMaRinE tried to at least grab something. A Viking or a Raven, but it is ultimately cleaned up. Truly. And now uThermal can once again focus entirely on the attack, but HeRoMaRinE now up 15 workers with his 3rd on location already mining. Should have many things faster. I mean, should have faster production. Extra 2 barracks should be coming down faster. He's gonna have double upgrades. uThermal still doesn't even have an engineering base. And also doesn't have combat shields on the way. 1 Raven falls for HeRoMaRinE, it looks like, thanks to the Vikings, but uThermal is forced to return face back towards the army and try and take a decent fight. It does not look decent much at all. It's a lot of tanks left over. He might have actually been able to punch through the Marines of HeRoMaRinE, but uThermal was not prepared to really take that engagement. He was trying to run away, so having to siege up a bit later than his opponent, get a concave a bit later to his opponent, wasn't exactly how he wanted to start that fight, even though he did grab a Raven. He's still going to try and hold off. I mean, HeRoMaRiNE's army entirely tank-based means he didn't lose the expensive slow-building units, and that's really great for HeRoMaRiNE. It does mean his army on the front lines isn't really going to... It's not going to win the game by itself. You just can't throw tanks by themselves. It's a bit dangerous. Thank you very much, Wardy, for the raid, so I imagine the other match is done. uThermal realizing at that second that truly, I cannot come back from this game, and taps out. HeRoMaRiNE takes game 1. So who won on the other side? A laser defeated Mana to grab the third qualifying spot. So this is now the last qualifier spot for the European bracket. Almost everyone you've seen in this bracket here today who did not actually qualify will once again be playing in the North American ones, which is open to the non-Koreans. Game 2 coming in on Romanticide. HeRoMaRinE just looked so good in that last game. I wouldn't say necessarily the better player because it was almost a cheesy opener from uThermal. It was a 1-base 1-1-1. Run all of your army up the ramp and hope that they're not prepared for it type thing. And he was prepared. I think we agreed. Chat and I agreed that HeRoMaRinE retargeted his Widowmine as not to waste the shot, which really ruined uThermal's plans. And then from there, uThermal was just so far behind. But HeRoMaRinE, as I was saying, just is not the type of player who's going to let a lead go. Where a lot of other people would. They would make some mistakes. They'd be a little over-eager when it comes to TvT. HeRoMaRinE's not that guy. So, yeah, uThermal started that game off from behind. HeRoMaRinE just showed how good he is in any matchup by keeping the lead. Making it look like an easy little packaged up game there. Game number 2 is promising to be as heated, even more heated actually. In the bottom right, he is HeRoMaRinE up 1-0. In the top left, sending 2 SCVs out. We've got the Blue Terran uThermal, so back to the classic 2 racks Reaper. I feel like watching Clem, I've always been like, oh, Reapers, blah, blah, blah. And it's been a single rack, and I'm like, oh shit, right, and Marauders. Marauders exist. Now, at 2 racks, it will be 2 Reapers. Does he lift it? And then build it? Is that what he does? That's interesting. HeRoMaRinE is going to go for an SCV scout. So, I mean, you don't have to scout the barracks themselves. You have to scout the lack of barracks here. Which HeRoMaRinE is sending an SCV out to do in time so he doesn't build his command center. So I'm not sure if uThermal is... Oh, of course. Oh, duh. 2 SCVs can mine this out. Me, no big brain. uThermal big brain. It's like a very, very weak, is weak the right word? Mineral patch? Low mineral patch? SCV gets that full scout. And HeRoMaRinE is not going to add on his command center, but rather adds on 2 bunkers. And he's going to add on a factory as soon as he can. So Reaper Marine. Marine's not only not costing gas, you can get the factory faster, but also being a faster unit to produce can help out. This is the way to do things when you find out your opponent's going for 2 racks. And then from here on out, you just have to basically hope you don't mess up the micro. Bunker finishes in time to save the Reaper. Marine pops out, can't tackle a Reaper by itself, but in combination with a couple of other units is very helpful. And the Reaper is starting to get some damage done. One of them is not going to be able to escape, but the other one will. Kills the Marine on the way out. 3, 4 SCVs killed. I think it's 5 or 6. I could see him trying to actually play this game out in a really good fashion. He gets the Marine, actually. uThermal, known for some pretty damn good Reaper micro, is really making this work. The factory only just finishes and HeRoMaRinE taps out! Well, how about that? Well, look at what happened there. HeRoMaRinE did start the game. I mean, he responded exactly as he should. He did. But the Reaper micro got out of hand. He didn't have all of his units collected together. Romanticide had too much space to actually roam around with when the Reapers were already in the main. If the Reapers had ever entirely evacuated and HeRoMaRinE can put his bunker, his Marines and his Reaper in a bunker to the left, I don't think uThermal does a lot of damage. But uThermal was actually able to get his Reapers on that high ground and keep them there. Slowly started picking off the units that really needed to combine together. HeRoMaRinE very quickly starting the next game. Got into that lobby with the skin of my teeth. Now we have a tied up TvT. In the bottom right of Lightshade, we have the Red Terran HeRoMaRinE. And in the top left, sending out SCVs once again. What a god. He is the Blue Terran uThermal. And I do mean SCVs plural once again with the T-Rex. Seeing a bit of a weakness with HeRoMaRinE, but I really do think one of the reasons that worked was because he was able to get the Reapers on the high ground and keep them there. That was a really big point about it. So that they could micro with the range they could micro with, right? The area, that's the word I'm looking for. The area they could micro with. Had they been forced to engage past the bunker full of units, it's not the same thing. It's not. So I'm actually a little surprised he does it again. That was not... It wasn't like a blatant weakness from HeRoMaRinE. HeRoMaRinE probably doesn't lose to a T-Rex he scouted that often. But it did happen once. It could happen again. uThermal going for the T-Rex. It's a bit of a right here. HeRoMaRinE this time around, not just SCV scouting, but actually starting off with a double gas. So he's going to go into a factory expand. This is supposed to be, I dare say, even a hard counter to double Rax Reaper. Because it's not just the factory expand, it's also the SCV scout. Because the factory expand can also still have that kind of awkward, like, oh no, I didn't know, and my unit was out of position. No. If you scout it plus have the faster factory, they're really... If HeRoMaRinE loses this game, he's judging himself, is what he would do. uThermal did go for, I think there was like a 14-14. I looked at the supply and I was like, oh, Jesus. So quite dedicated. And if it's dedicated, there's a thing that can happen when it's like, what, like a 16, 17 or something like that, where like you can get enough damage done and be like, ah, whatever, I did it, it's fine. But if you go for, I thought it was 15-15, so the so shows what I know, but if you go for the big cut on the workers, it can be quite difficult to really come back from this. He does get an orbital, so it's like the most all-in thing we've ever seen, but already not going so hot. A single bunker plus the faster factory, this time even saving his initial barracks units. uThermal's gonna have to just adapt from this. But again, that weird thing happens kind of like in a PvP where your attack, your aggression, your committal keeps your opponent defensive. You just go, well, I guess we're kind of doing the same thing then, right? Like we're kind of on the same economy, so let's just macro this one out. That can happen here for uThermal. He does want to find some damage. He finds 2 SCVs, a Marine, 3, 4, possibly even 5 SCVs before he's able to skedaddle. Make that 6, make that 7, and 8, and then he's still able to evacuate with 2 Reapers. That's 10 SCVs. What? That was not supposed to happen. That was not supposed to happen. HeRoMaRinE, knowing that was too much damage to take. If he takes 6 SCVs worth of damage, he's like, shit, okay, fine, whatever. 10 SCVs worth of damage. He knows he has now fallen behind in this game. Doesn't matter they had a slightly faster factory. He's not going to be ahead on a starport, which I don't think really would matter that much anyways, with the power of the Cyclone defensively. And he's not going to be ahead in the command center. uThermal, perhaps yes. Maybe he did find HeRoMaRinE's weakness in the T-Rex. HeRoMaRinE just couldn't corral the Reapers well enough, even in this tight corner. All right, Reapers. Show me the razzle-dazzle. The razzle-dazzle! Oh, okay. He lost the second Reaper, which I guess he would say he shouldn't have done, but this one still being alive is a lot of lost mining time. It's gonna get no one more SCV at once. It's so bad, it's not gonna get it. Oh, we got the command center SCV! He still got one more SCV, are you kidding me? And a delay in the command center. uThermal, what a Reaper god. Cyclone should be coming along for this push, not tearing down a barracks. 2 Cyclones with uThermal pop up, though, get into the grass, take out one Hellion, lock onto a second one, lose it because of the grass again, awkwardly enough. Get his lock onto the 1 Cyclone, but the Cyclone of HeRoMaRinE kills the other one faster, and okay, they're both left with 1 Cyclone. I love the little grass dynamic. It's absolutely impossible to cast, you know, the play-by-play at every single moment, but afterwards, you're like, okay, so here's what happened, right? So the Reapers use the grass defensively, and then they use it offensively, and then use it defensively. Meanwhile, HeRoMaRinE is also trying to use it, like, okay, buddy. Point is, they both disengage. HeRoMaRinE was probably hoping for a bit more. His Hellions and Cyclone together against a defensively situated uThermal might have been able to dance around a little bit, maybe even get a couple of these SCVs, just cause, right? They're mining and they're free. But with uThermal kind of reaching out like that, instead they trade out the army supply. HeRoMaRinE still down 6 SCVs. Army supply is going to be similar for a little while longer, but eventually uThermal will push ahead. It's kind of like the first game, where HeRoMaRinE was up by 6 and then 10 SCVs at one point. But uThermal had that still fairly good army, decent army supply. Maybe get done something. Well, in that game, HeRoMaRinE was all over his push. Didn't let it get anywhere close to him. uThermal, not going to do that. He's got Marines scouting around, which is still pretty important. He's going to try and meet it a little bit, or, well, he's protecting his 3rd CC, actually. But this type of defensive setup means that HeRoMaRinE, he might not break it, but it means that HeRoMaRinE might be able to kind of control uThermal a little bit, so maybe his 3rd CC could go like on location, for instance, which I think he has to do because uThermal's 3rd CC is already done. Can't let that one go. I would dare say that he actually just has to straight up do economic damage to his opponent while also getting a 3rd CC on the low grounds. So far, no one has Vikings, but HeRoMaRinE's the one producing them. uThermal actually invested into triple Raven, and then barracks are on the way right now, which means that in these specific engagements, the tank Raven engagements, HeRoMaRinE actually has a better shot at pushing through and picking off the important units. Eventually, uThermal will have so many Marines that it won't matter as much, but that's 2 minutes away. uThermal's gonna try and bust this here and now, and this could be the game-deciding fight. Auto turrets going down for both sides, but far more for uThermal because he had an extra Raven. The tanks get cleaned up for HeRoMaRinE, but then the tanks of uThermal also get taken out. A bit of a trade there for 14 SCVs lost, plus the Cyclone, oh my god, even dies as well. And now HeRoMaRinE can dig into the 3rd base SCV, so instead of 14 SCVs, it's 15, 16, perhaps 17 or 18. uThermal now down in workers, but HeRoMaRinE's command center about 60-70% done, was not put on location. uThermal now has to lift his command center. This ends up being just good enough for HeRoMaRinE to bring this game back and even take maybe a bit of a lead. You know, he's up in army right now. He's slightly up in workers, and while his 3rd command center is only just finishing and turning into an orbital, he might be able to delay uThermals from actually mining and producing SCVs for some time, so we'll see what happens there. uThermal actually doing kind of like the how screwed am I scan, I think. Is there a 3rd CC? He doesn't see it, but there's actually one on the way. That also might be like how dedicated is this scan, and that might be inaccurate information. HeRoMaRinE, meanwhile, scanning offensively. I think uThermal scanned twice, actually, both on the 3rd CC and defensively to see where the army was, and is once again in that kind of pickle where it is so much more based around the tank Viking dynamic than it is about the Marines that we'll see 2-3 minutes down the line. So he has 3 barracks. I think they've added on reactors at this point, but he never added on stim, only just now doing so. So his Marines, again, they'll get high in numbers. They need time, and they need stim and combat shields. Auto turrets go down. Wait, what is he doing? What is he doing? Oh, the SCV's not really providing the buffer that you would have liked. Once again, pulled into this. This was so awkward. uThermal is going to clean this up, but I think he lost more SCVs than he had to clean it up. And now he's down 20 SCVs, 25 SCVs. And the cleanup might actually not even happen. HeRoMaRinE has a reinforcing tank. He sieges up to safeguard his retreat and continue his presence on uThermal's side of the map. And now HeRoMaRinE has his orbital floating over to that 3rd base. uThermal, this game is slipping through his fingers. I mean, even if he only lost 10 SCVs in that hold instead of as many as he did, like, it still would have not been a good situation. He had fallen so far behind in the economy, and the benefits he had gathered from the earlier lead in economy, the one that was at 4 or 5 minutes, went into barracks production that actually didn't end up helping him as much as you would have hoped. And when he finally got into the Viking production, it was only to match HeRoMaRiNE's Vikings, so... Oh, we're back to just looking at uThermal and going, what can he do to make it back in this game? His combat shields will be faster. His 1-1 will be a bit faster. A couple of engagements could maybe go his way because of those things. But I don't think we're there yet. He still doesn't have that many Marines. If he had 30 Marines right now, he jumps on top of these tanks and the Vikings, and then there you go. The concave is looking quite good for uThermal, and Stim had finished up, so he actually gets to pounce on this. Exactly what I was talking about. Doesn't need 30 Marines, just needs 10, but loses 8 more SCVs. At least he clears up the army, Vikings included, and maybe can start doing a couple of drops here and there. Yep, that's exactly what he's gonna do. He lifts up his tanks. Now, those tanks aren't very safe. 3 tanks, all it takes is HeRoMaRinE to have his own concave and his own decent number of Marines, which he will have because he finally has 5 barracks producing with all reactors, to clean that up. It's actually not that scary of a drop. I dare say like a 16 Marine drop would be scarier because at least he could actually get in and get out. Although there are missile turrets, so maybe that's not true. And no drop might be good enough. He's got to try something. He's gonna boost in, try and get himself into a tucked in little corner back there. But it's actually really isn't tucked in, honestly. The Marines are gonna be able to get a concave on the left side. He does halt a lot of mining. He's gonna delay the armory, it looks like, but I don't know if the engagement's really gonna go that well for him. uThermal also investing into 2-2 faster than his opponent. That delay in the armory is actually kind of a big deal. The tank's gonna target fire the SCVs first, try and even up the economy that uThermal knows he had fallen behind in, and he does. He's now only down by 2 workers. Although HeRoMaRiNE's boost of his SCVs, of his economy, income graph, yeah, very much HeRoMaRinE favored the last couple of minutes. He's already used that to go into a 4th base, turning into a planetary, and uThermal's about to scout that and go, okay, shit, all right, another thing he has to worry about. That drop still went better than I thought it would, honestly. Like, it took a lot longer than I thought it would to clean that up, and HeRoMaRinE did have to use his SCVs to clean it up, so... uThermal knows how to try and make a comeback happen in TvT. Just like HeRoMaRinE knows how to make a comeback happen, which started this whole kerfuffle. This is why we're here, 12 and a half, 13 minutes. Is that uThermal got a lead, and then HeRoMaRinE got an even bigger lead, and uThermal's crunched that lead down a little bit, but... ultimately not enough, not yet. Liberator on that right side could be quite useful. uThermal's got a sensor tower protecting his 3rd, but he doesn't have one protecting his left side, and that's a lot of Marines looking to dive in. I mean, tanks are siege, not a big deal. Yeah, he's not gonna even bother. He's not gonna try for it. Two about to finish up for uThermal. His Marines are way more powerful. And what do you do when you're a Terran player and you're behind in a TvT? What do you do, guys? Everyone say it together. You drop. And you drop a lot. A lot of times and a lot of shit. That's what you do. That Marine, I think... I don't think he spotted it. I don't think he did. Nothing's moving over there. Nothing's moving over there, but now he's like, okay, a scan on my 3rd. Okay, you're doing something, because that's what Terrans do. The scan is both a great strength and a great weakness. uThermal is going to just simply pull away back from that. I think that's a fine move. If they both can get maxed out, You know, 200 supply is a great equalizer. Anything can happen then, especially because the upgrades will either be even or in favor for uThermal. So you can hope that can happen. Unfortunately, when it comes to TvT, there is one thing that really does start to push you forward. Like, it used to be that, you know, even the pros would kind of just, like, headbutt each other a lot if they're both maxed out trying to win inches, and that's when comebacks would happen. Nowadays, there is a very powerful, very practiced transition into Viking Liberator or even Mass Raven that can stomp on a person who's trying to turtle their way back into a game. So uThermal kind of has to stay active and make sure that he kind of catches that transition, maybe even punishes it in an ideal way, if things really go well for him, and then respond to it by just kind of stopping it from getting him tucked into his own corner. If tanks and liberators get him siege up on his own side, then that's bad news, but he actually finds tanks of HeRoMaRinE on siege and goes up the ramp. HeRoMaRinE, not expecting this, actually loses a ton of tanks. It loses a bit of positioning, but that planetary is going to hold on the right side. Marine's unfortunately not able to do too much more. The upgrades have evened up, but the Marine count, the medevac count, I guess, actually healing there was really important. Unfortunately, uThermal was taking some damage back at home. A refinery is going to fall. Not actually a big deal, to be honest, but it is going to distract uThermal a little bit. My god, this TvT actually turning out to be quite a good one, but uThermal's still not with a 4th command center. It seems like his plan right now is just lift his main orbital eventually, which is a very, very vulnerable 4th base. At least he cleans up the drop. 3-3 is started and is already about over halfway done for uThermal, where HeRoMaRinE did not start his 3-3. He is adding on the very fearsome Liberators. Very scary army he's building. But he hasn't started 3-3. And while that is technically the better composition... Oh, the 4th base isn't canceled! Oh, uThermal finally found enough minerals to get it, and he doesn't cancel it. And he's not going to clean up this drop either. uThermal, he was making headway. He was making the comeback happen, but... that was such a painful loss. Oh my god. Anyways, yeah, the late game Liberator tank army is, you know, theoretically the better one, but it can be severely outpositioned. So we see that even in, you know, more even games. uThermal not with his tank siege, but still far away enough from HeRoMaRinE that he doesn't have to take that fight necessarily. Army supply is quite similar, but uThermal, that was such a... Oh man, that loss of the 4th command center was so bad. And now he is just going to lift his orbital. Oh. Could have been the start. Thought he had cleaned up all of HeRoMaRinE's presence, but that medevac is actually still going on. Jeez. Even these Marines, like, where the hell does he keep finding Marines on this right side? What this has happened like 5 times. Scans in the middle of the map trying to figure out who's being more aggressive. Actually, for HeRoMaRinE, or for uThermal, I just told him that HeRoMaRinE's not moving out. For HeRoMaRinE, well, I think he just figured out what uThermal was going to do. So he scans all of the medevacs mysteriously without anything underneath the medevacs. And uThermal is going to be like, well, maybe? Could I still do it? No? No. And there's a scan to say, okay, fly away. Fly away, my pretties, fly! Or unload, either way. Command center now mining, but oh my goodness, is that a vulnerable location? Oh, Lord. Thermal digging in deep to bring this game back, man. HeRoMaRiNE's now like, no way I'm losing to a dumbass Doom drop. No ways. Split up his Marines to make sure no single Marine can take them out. No single scouting Marine of uThermal. Scan reveals a medevac drop, but more importantly, it reveals that the army's not in position to perhaps save this 5th base. If uThermal could go ahead and bop that, that would be excellent. It'd be a start. I think HeRoMaRiNE is a little bit late to the party, but uThermal's like really, well, he has to respect the army because as soon as he sieges, that's when the Liberators can siege up on him. So, oh, that was so close to being able to kind of wedge himself in there and... Yeah, I guess, oh man, so tricky. 3-3 is finally finishing up for HeRoMaRiNE too. That was such a difference maker for so long. But now HeRoMaRiNE has a fully upgraded Marine army as well as the superior Viking Liberator army. That is a large little squad there. HeRoMaRiNE's trying to double expand, which is certainly a bit greedy, even in his situation. It's a bit greedy. uThermal now maxed out, has enough minerals to start adding on his own command centers. I guess he has to make a choice. So it's extra command centers, extra starports, or a remax potential, right? It looks like he's choosing the Remax potential. 9 SCVs go down to a Liberator. uThermal forced to just continually disengage from this army. He has to kind of force a base race, which is why his army over to the right side was situated like it was. It wants to try and go for a pincer move, actually, which HeRoMaRinE is able to see thanks to Marine on the backside, but is it going to be a good enough concave? Is it a good enough surround? Can uThermal actually do this? And the left side comes in as well. Are you kidding me? uThermal coming in from every single direction is able to clear that up and continue forward. A couple of tanks also going to be taken out, not supported. uThermal is making something happen here, but is it going to be enough? HeRoMaRinE forced to come back with his Medivacs and his Vikings. Not a lot of the ground armies left over. Liberator's siege to try and hold it to his natural, which they will, but it means that his Vikings are going to go down. His extra commanders are going to go down. uThermal still has a lot of siege tanks left over, and he is actually pushing into the third base. Is this actually happening? I cannot believe it. I refuse to believe that uThermal has brought this game back. HeRoMaRinE is forced to lift his third orbital, but he is still mining off of 2 other bases. Oh, imagine if uThermal had actually been able to enter onto the production line of HeRoMaRinE. That could have been it. That could have been the ticket. Ooh. Damn. uThermal. Using that bank he had accrued to try and Remax is not nearly as fast to it as HeRoMaRinE is. He's going to have to take another engagement to save his leftover tanks, but he has not found enough avenues here. He only lifted a third orbital. He doesn't even know about the bottom left or the upper right. I mean, he might, even if he did know about it, I actually kind of agree that he has to go for the throat here. He can't just go for the appendages, the phalanges. This, I think, is the defense that HeRoMaRinE needs to actually win this game. Liberators and tanks shooting down. uThermal tried his damnness to make this work, but HeRoMaRinE takes the 2-1 and takes the qualifier spot. GG. G flippin' G. Well played. Well played.